And my thesis for the rest of this talk is that software is actually in decline right now. It's in maybe a soft decline that just makes things really inconvenient for us, but it could lead to a hard decline later on because our civilization depends on software. We put it everywhere. All our communication systems are software. Our vehicles are software. So, you know, we now have airplanes that kill hundreds of people due to bad software, and bad software only, right? There was no other problem with those airplanes. Now, I don't think most people would believe me if I say software is in decline. It sure seems like it's flourishing. So I have to convince you at least that this is a plausible perspective, and that's my goal for the rest of this talk. And what I will say about that is these collapses like we're talking about, that Bronze Age collapse was massive. Like all these civilizations were destroyed, but it took 100 years. So if you were at the beginning of that collapse in the first 20 years, you might think, well, things aren't as good as they were 20 years ago, but it's fine. We're basically the same, right? But then you keep thinking that, you keep thinking that. Every 20 years, another couple cities get burned to the ground, and then eventually there's like nothing, right? Fall of the Roman Empire was about 300 years. So if you're in the middle of a very slow collapse like that, would you recognize it? Would you know what it looked like from the inside? So of course I expect the reply to what I'm saying to be, you're crazy. Software is doing great. Look at all these internet companies that are making all this money and changing the way that we live. You know, and I would say, yes, that is all happening. But what is really happening is that software has been free riding on hardware. For the past many decades, we've had amazing advances in hardware technology. Computers keep getting faster and faster. It's really one of the greatest accomplishments in human history that we've somehow managed to do that. And software gets better, in air quotes, because it has better hardware to run on. That's the main reason. Software technology itself has not improved in quite a while, I claim, right? And you can say, but look at all these examples of cool stuff we can do, even in the past couple of years. So like AlphaGo was an AI that'll beat human players at Go. And you can go on like Instagram or whatever app and like make your face look like somebody else's face. That's crazy. We didn't used to be able to do that. And that's true. But most of these, again, are products of hardware being fast. Most of these cool things that we do now are due to machine learning algorithms. And it's, you know, those really are relying on quantity of computation right now to produce impressive results. It's hard to imagine being able to train AlphaGo 20 years ago on the computers we had at that time, right? So it's not there are software technology improvements here, right? Machine learning algorithms have legitimately gotten better, but there's two things to say about that. Well, the main thing to say about it, I will say, is just that it's a minority of actual software technology, right? So of the volume of things that we run, the thing that runs the machine learning algorithm that produces the actual impressive result is a very small piece of the program. It's actually really simple once you understand the math, and especially if you don't have to train it, if you just have to use it, right? And so when you take an app on your phone like that does something funny with your picture, the part of it that does the thing that we think is cool and really value, that piece of software is tremendously simple compared to all the stuff about like loading the bitmap for your face or responding to user input events, right? That part of the software is huge and complicated and is the part that's kind of falling apart. So I would characterize software as having small local technological improvements like machine learning, with overall inertia or degradation in the rest of the field. And we're very impressed by the improvements, though, right? And let me illustrate the degradation part as best I can. And it's to say that we simply don't expect software to work anymore. And I'm not sure when this happened. You know, computers always had a reputation for being a little bit funny, but you know, if you go back many decades ago, it was generally due to like not being user-friendly or hard to understand how to use it. But today, if you're using a program and it does something wrong, you're just like, yeah, it's software, restart it, whatever. And that didn't used to be. And if our standards are shrinking over time, how low can they shrink before it becomes unsustainable? So I decided to say, you know, I want to quantify or illustrate how much I put up with this from day to day. So from now on, I'm just going to take a screenshot every time any piece of software that I use has an obvious bug or unintuitive or incorrect piece of behavior. And right when I decided that, I was working on my compiler in the command line, and the console that I use, after a while, just starts saying attempt to index a nil value in the prompt because it's written in Lua for some reason. Then I go to Emacs, and I'm working on my code, and Emacs is set to reload files that have been modified. And that used to work fine, but at some point they broke it so that it reloads the file too early and doesn't get the whole thing, and half of it is cut off, and I have to manually reset that every time it happens. Then I go to Gmail, and I'm going to send an email to the rest of the team about some graphics stuff, making decisions about what to do. And I copy a line of a previous email and paste it into the reply box. And then I start typing my reply, and it goes into a 3-character wide column over here, because somehow they've managed to reproduce all the kinds of stupid Microsoft Word formatting bugs that everyone was frustrated with in the 90s and 2000s. Now those are in Gmail, and I don't know how to fix it. You fight with it for a while to get it to stop happening. You have to delete something invisible. I don't know. Very annoying. So then I say, okay, I'm going to get some real programming done. I go to Visual Studio, and I say, I'm going to type in my command line arguments up there. And as soon as I do that, we get this box that says, hey, collection was modified. Enumeration option may not, or operation may not execute. Why? I don't exactly know why that's a problem. I'm just telling it a string. We're not even trying to do anything with the string. It's just save this for later for when we want to run the program. But apparently that's too hard, right? And this is far from the only problem with Visual Studio. Visual Studio has many, many bugs, but this is the funniest one because it's so simple what I'm trying to do, and it can't do it all the time. I don't know what percentage of the time this happens. It's probably 5%. I don't know, 4%. So then I decide to blow off some steam and play some games. So let me download a game on the Epic Store, but we're unable to start the download for some reason. So maybe I'll go to Steam because that's a more reliable, longer-lasting store. And I'm able to actually download a game, but then when I go to the install window, it's just a black window, and I have to restart Steam to play the game. Then I manage to play the game, and then I alt-tab out for a second to check something, and then now full screen is all messed up, and the game's up in a corner of a window, right? And then I have to restart the game to get full screen again. And then I'm watching some Counter-Strike. There was a really good match between Cloud9 and Luminosity Gaming about a month ago. And, but for the entire match, there was a mysterious 6th player on the Cloud9 side called Undefined up in the corner there. Let me zoom in on that map for you Counter-Strike fans. Undefined is on the left. 100,000 people were watching this match, and it was there the whole time. I was thinking about a game I like called Ultima 4, so I went to this website that had the map, and the map was screwed up because it was wrapping into extra lines, so I opened a different browser to see it correctly. I needed to get a visa to come to the Russian Federation, so I go to the visa site, and I start typing my information, and maybe I typoed my phone number, or I put the +1 and it didn't like it or something. So it says phone number is invalid over here. But I couldn't fix the phone number. No matter what I put in, it wouldn't accept it, because whatever the variable was for phone number is invalid would never get reset. So I had to stop the application, close the website, clear my cookies, go back, and reapply in order to be able to, and be very careful when I was typing my phone number. There's just so many of these. All of this was within a couple days. I didn't have to try hard to find these, right? I just had to stop collecting them. But then I come here, and as if to give me more examples in this talk. So here in this hotel, where I've been writing this talk for a couple days, they have this software-controlled heating and lighting system where it's you kind of push the non-button buttons and things happen. And some percentage of the time, not all the time, when I turn the air conditioning on or off, the phone rings. It's not a full ring even. It's just a little bloop, 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 and then it stops. But I know it's not intentional because it doesn't happen every time. And I am not making this up. This actually happens in my room right now. Okay? And then, for this talk, 2 hours ago, I was working at the last minute to make a diagram, and I downloaded fully legitimate licensed Creative Cloud Photoshop to my machine. The first thing I do is go File, New Document, bam, the new document extension could not be loaded because of a program error, right? And so my whole point, though, is we are not surprised by any of this. My other point is that it's getting worse over time. So try this every day yourself, because we've gotten used to it. I didn't even think it would be as much, when I had the idea to record this, I didn't think it would be as much as it was. Try counting for yourself just every day. Just make a little list of all these things, and I think you'll be surprised how many there are.